Hello everybody, this is Vita and I'm back to read another story called David and the Grumpy King by Fiona Veitch Smith. David was the youngest of 7 brothers and 2 sisters who lived together with their mom and dad on a very busy farm near Bethlehem. David's best friend was a boy called Jonathan, who just happened to be the son of the king of Israel. King Saul was a very important man who spent his time fighting wars, collecting taxes, and worrying about anyone trying to steal his crown. All of these stresses and strains made King Saul a very grumpy man. He shouted at the servants, he shouted at the guards, and if Jonathan and David laughed too loudly, he shouted at them too. One summer holiday, when King Saul was away fighting one of his wars, Jonathan invited David to come to stay with him at the palace. The prophet Samuel agreed to look after them, which pretty much meant they could do as they pleased. As long as you are good and kind to people and animals, you can have as much fun as you like, said the prophet. Then he sat down on the throne and had a nap. So David and Jonathan filled their days with all the fun things 2 little boys in a palace usually do. They swam in the golden swimming pool. They slid down the giant spiral staircase, and they bounced on every bed in every room in the house. When the weather was sunny, they went outside and practiced throwing spears and shooting their bows and arrows, which in those days princes and their friends were allowed to do. In the evenings, David played the harp, while Jonathan quietly read a book, and the prophet Samuel snoozed in the corner. Both boys agreed it was the best summer holiday they had ever had, but that was until King Saul came back. He stormed into the palace, shouting and stomping and slamming doors. The king had just lost a very important war and was not in a good mood. The prophet Samuel tried to calm him down, but it was no good. But then, just as the king was turning purple, he suddenly stopped. "What is that beautiful music?" he asked. "It's young David playing the harp," answered the prophet. "Bring him to me," said the king. So David was brought to the king and made to play the harp while Saul ate his dinner. The king hummed and smiled, and everyone in the palace was greatly relieved. But then a terrible thing happened. The king asked Samuel where he had first met David. Samuel told him about the day he had gone to David's farm and anointed him the next king of Israel. "But I am a king," boomed Saul, "and no harp-playing shepherd boy will ever take my place." King Saul grabbed his spear and threw it with all his might. Jonathan saw what was about to happen and pushed David out of the way in the nick of time. Then, roaring with rage, the king grabbed another spear, and the 2 boys skittled out of the palace. They ran and they ran and they ran until they reached David's farm. When they got there, David's mom and dad rushed out to meet them. Then they all got down on their knees and prayed that King Saul would soon come down and say sorry for the terrible things he had done. So David and Jonathan spent the rest of the summer at the little farm outside Bethlehem. And instead of staircases, they slid down haystacks. And instead of golden swimming pools, they swam in the pond. "This is better than the palace any day," said Jonathan. And David quite agreed. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned as more stories are coming soon.